okay?
You're right.
Yeah, don't worry, just talking to myself.
Just doing some ASMR.
God.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I was gonna do something, but I was like, oh, don't worry about it. It's okay.
That'd be.
You can continue with the podcast if you want.
I can? Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Thermaltake, the official Thermaltake Australia podcast. On today's podcast, we'll be discussing whether games can make good TV shows or movies. See, that's why me and Taylor are having that conversation about Batman Begins. Not because we were talking about it before, but because it ties in. See? Yeah. We're going to take a question from the community about RGB and discuss the recent Ubisoft Forward Event that happened about a week ago. As always, you're joined by me, your host Sarah, and today I'm also joined by the following wonderful people.
Alex.
How dare you? I'm love.
How dare you?
I like to change it up, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, you just jumped the gun, Alex.
Yeah.
I know,
Jumped
usually
in.
I do that.
Keep
I'm a
you
bit
guys on
taken
your
aback.
toes.
I'm a bit flustered now. I'm a bit.
Yeah, are you okay? Do you need,
What
do you
else
need a
is gonna
second?
happen? What else is going to happen in this podcast?
Podcast is going to be filled with hijinks and surprises.
I heard you had a costume ready for us.
What, me?
Yeah, you Taylor.
Yeah, didn't you say you had some sort of costume?
Yeah, that was a lie.
Oh.
It's a blatant lie.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I feel bad now for believing you.
Well, you should know.
That's his secret, Alex.
Disappointed.
Never believe Taylor. I mean, we are sort of cosplaying today, but we won't tell you who. Leave your comments in the comment section. Who did we think was hilarious
Cosplay as?
to dress up as?
I will say though, this may backfire because there's a lot of like kids groups that have like color coordinated.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Wonder if there's any
So
others that
it's
have
like-
the same ones.
Like I was thinking like TMNT, but
Oh
like,
wait,
you have to be more orange.
aren't the
What
Teletubbies?
Yeah.
Colours?
Yeah, they are.
It's
No, they've
not
got
the
green.
Teletubbies. They have green? Okay, no,
They've
it's
got
not.
members.
Great,
It's
I'm
not
pretty sure.
Teletubbies. It's not them.
There's Tinky Wiki, Dipsy, Lala, Poe. That's 4.
Yep.
That is 4. Well done.
Good, good counting.
Good.
That's the only thing he knows.
Now tell us the seasons in order.
Why do you know them?
I know
know
the
what?
song.
The Teletubbies.
Why? Yeah, why do you know the Teletubbies so well?
Did you not grow up with the Teletubbies?
Yeah, but still, I'd
Wasn't really into
forgotten
them.
about them until I watched them as Emma liked to watch them.
Well, I can't decide what I commit to memory, so there you go.
But you're like seasons. Don't
Okay.
need those. But Teletubbies.
Yeah, don't need seasons.
Definitely need
Yeah, no,
those.
name of it.
I mean, I
Keep
can't
those
talk.
in the bank.
No, I figured it out.
Okay, yes.
No, I did figure out how the seasons work.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Pray
Oh,
do,
wow.
do tell if
When?
anyone's having a
Last
hard
week?
time.
I don't have to tell you. Jeez.
Your dog's like, no, you don't know the seasons. You
He's
know
calling
nothing. Yeah. He's
Maybe
lying.
start the recording fresh.
Okay. Oh no, he's going.
So
He's
again,
going.
it's the second podcast in a row that
He's
Taylor's had to go talk to the dog.
Yeah,
Um,
gonna give him that firm talk. Firm talking.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to stop. But I think the family that was innocently walking past has moved on. So
Oh no.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, poor family.
He just, his targets are made up on his own, and he just decides to.
yeah, he's
go
protecting
after
his
whatever.
territory.
And he notices that after he barks profusely at people, they walk away. They may have done that
Exactly.
anyway, but if he
There's a
didn't
cause
do
of-
it, they might have attacked.
There's a cause and effect here.
Yeah, see, I'm figuring it out.
Anyway, sorry for that, everyone. Headphone users, I'd be warned about that.
Maybe I had a little
If we do
warning.
decide to not start the podcast fresh,
Yeah.
but maybe you can edit it out probably.
You saw my reaction. I bloody jumped.
No, I'm gonna leave it in. I'm gonna leave it in as a little surprise for everyone. You're welcome, everyone at home.
I'll close the door just so if he does it again, it's not as loud.
Oh, that's a great idea.
This, okay, I'm just throwing,
just sassed right now, okay?
just throwing it out there. This has been like, this is the 20th podcast we've done. This is the most scuffed podcast we've ever done. Like,
I think it's
that
just
an
we're more
Australian thing?
comfortable now.
What?
Is this like is scuffed an Australian saying?
Is
Or
it?
is that just... I don't
Nah.
know.
Nah, surely
Nah.
not.
I've only heard Australians say it, so I don't know if it's...
Nah, yeah, nah.
Nah.
Hang
it's
on.
Definitely not.
Nah.
There was 3 no years. Does that mean yes or no? I can't figure it
Do
out.
they cancel each other
It's always the
out?
last one, mate. It's always the
Yeah.
last one.
That's
But
true.
it's, if it's nah, yeah, that's yes, and yeah, nah is
Yes.
no. So if you go nah,
Yes,
yeah,
the last
yeah, nah,
last one.
but then
Yeah, nah, yeah.
It's always the
Because, like,
last one.
it's
like
interstitial,
a
so it's like
50-50.
if you have yeah, nah,
Yeah, nah.
there's a
Yeah.
yeah, nah
Nah.
in the middle.
It doesn't matter. It's always the last one.
I'm gonna go to sleep now.
I think we need a. I feel like that person, the guy in Is It Always Sunny, where he's like, and he's like the meme where he's like
Oh, Charlie. I think it's
working it
Charlie.
out. Yeah, that's
With
what it
the-
feels
the
like.
board, yeah.
This is a very visual thing. Sorry. This is why you got to watch the podcast through multiple times so that you can get
Yeah.
everything that happens. It's like one of those video games with multiple endings. You have to experience it multiple times.
Just watching on YouTube.
That's it. And download it on your podcasting platform of choice, please. Especially iTunes, Apple Podcasts, because please, I need more people to download my
They
podcast.
changed that. That's confusing when you have to say Apple Podcasts now instead of
I
iTunes.
know, it's really annoying. You okay, Julie?
I'm on silent. I'm sorry.
What?
We are almost 10 minutes into this podcast, and already Alex and I have had a wardrobe change. Gillian's phone's not been on silent, and Taylor had to assault his dog. This is going really well.
This is what the people come for,
This
isn't
is the content people want.
The content.
Like,
Quality content.
eye is like teary, and I don't know why.
Yeah,
Is your eyes
eyes
just
teary.
leaking?
Yeah, I think it's from like laughing and smiling and stuff. So much.
Alrighty,
Alright,
let's
to
get
it.
on with the topic because we're like 10 minutes in almost. So first thing I want to talk about this week on the podcast is a Dragon's Dogma show has recently been announced. I don't really know a lot about the series, but a lot of fans are very excited about this, I think. Although maybe tentatively excited because Netflix does have a history of like adapting things a bit weirdly, but Anyway, so I saw this and saw people, going off about it. And then upon that, I had also discovered that in the weeks leading up to this announcement, I'd seen like 4 or 5 different, TV shows or movies being announced that they're going to be in the pipelines or being made from video games. There was a Fallout one that was mentioned, one for a interesting indie game that's quite funny, which is called My Friend at Pedro? Yeah, My Friend Pedro, which is quite an interesting game, which is being done into a TV series by the writer of John Wick, which I think is just perfect. But anyway, so I just saw a bunch of like game to TV/movie adaptations being announced. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because I feel like historically games being turned into movies or shows haven't always worked out all that great, or they've been very mixed. So I just wanted to talk about this kind of concept, about you guys' opinions on whether you think games can be made into good TV shows and movies. Also, as Taylor informed me the other day, they've updated they're doing the Uncharted movie finally, which I don't know how I feel about because I feel like Uncharted, as it stands, is already a very cinematic game. I don't really know how a movie's going to add to that. But yeah, so I just thought we should have a little bit of chat about it, talk about everyone's opinions on games to, other forms of media, and if you guys think it can work, or are they all kind of doomed to fail, like a lot of other older attempts that haven't really gone down that well. What do you guys think?
I don't know really much about many games that have become shows, or maybe
What?
movies. Like,
Isn't Tomb Raider
I was
one?
gonna say,
well, yeah,
it's one
besides
pretty big
that-
one, you should know.
Do you love Tomb Raider?
Your brand
that's
is
a movie. Isn't it? Oh, you
Yeah,
said
it's movie and TV show, yeah.
Okay, so
Any form of media outside of games.
Yeah, being turned
like,
into something
recently, recently is probably Witcher, but that's like a book and a game.
Yeah, that was more. They actually made it a point to say that it was based on the books more so than the games,
Yeah.
which I thought was
Like
interesting.
any other ones, I don't know really much about. Only in the past, like Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like you were saying that Netflix has a history of doing bad adaptations, and that's absolutely true, especially when it comes to like anime adaptations. That's exactly true. But when it comes to video games, I feel like they've had quite a few successes because they adapted Castlevania into a Netflix animated show that already has 3 seasons that's done really well. They did The Witcher, which is kind of tangentially related to the video games as well in terms of the aesthetic of the show. And they have plans to do a cyberpunk Netflix show with Studio
Oh
Trigger.
yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah.
That's coming next year, late next year, I think. And yeah, when they announced Dragon's Dogma, I think the success they find with Netflix as well, but I think with video game adaptation in general, it works to the benefit of the show's creators when they have a world to play with that doesn't have a set narrative. That's why I think movies like Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed did so poorly.
Yeah.
Because they're playing in a narrative context that's already been established and has its own core narrative. Whereas with Castlevania, like there's a narrative there, like you're Simon Belmont, you're facing off against Dracula, but that's about the extent of it. Like it's very simple. It's like a B plot kind of thing. There's enough room in there to kind of tell your own story and to craft your own narrative to make it more interesting and refreshing for newer audiences. Whereas like with Prince of Persia, you have to do the whole rigmarole original story. Same with Tomb Raider as well. But I'm definitely excited because I think with Dragon's Dogma, that was a bit of a sleeper hit for a lot of people when it came out and no one really played it. You know, obviously, Sarah, you didn't play it. And I didn't really touch it until much later. And even then, I didn't dabble in it too much. I probably played a couple of hours of it and didn't really gel with me, sadly. But the thing behind that game is that the plot is very simple. Like, a dragon flies to your village, wipes out your village, and then eats your heart. And then you wake up on the beach the next day and you haven't got a heart. And the whole quest is to get your heart back from the dragon that ate it. Like, it's a bizarre plot. You know, it's from a Japanese developer, so it kind of makes sense. But in the context of a narrative, you know, inciting incident, it's very simple. Like, that's the objective. That's now tell the story of how you get there. So I think adapting that into a show makes a lot of sense because you can basically do anything with that. There's a clear runway for you to do anything.
I thought Angry Birds was really cool. And I think it goes based off what you were saying, Taylor, is that like it's such a simple idea. And then they were able to expand on that with like the characters and stuff and how they would act as if they were a full character. And that works reasonably well. Whereas if you have a more defined game and more defined characters, it's sort of almost harder to translate. But yeah.
Because it's not like a book where a book you visualize in your mind how everyone looks like. But in the game, you kind of have an idea. Like sometimes I'll feel if say a game wasn't as realistic, then if they were to make like a more realistic TV show, like actual actors and stuff, that would be like Witcher sort of thing. I think that's cool. Like, I don't know.
I also think with you were saying before, Sarah, about Uncharted being already kind of heavily cinematic, I have the same concerns with The Last of Us and how they're adapting that into a HBO TV show. I feel like there's a danger there because I think the characters, I think from what I've read previously, it is about Joel and Ellie. Sorry. It is about
Dog's
Joel
like,
and Ellie.
and me, I'm in it too.
I'm the dog that you have to shoot in the head in the second game. But yeah, so like with Joel and Ellie, they're very, you know, those characters are very deliberately performed by the actors that portray them. So I feel like casting new people for those roles can change the experience somewhat to where it's completely different to the point where you kind of lose that initial core of that story.
Yeah, because I don't know, my biggest thing with it is like, for me, I think an adaptation it needs to have a purpose, because when it stops having a purpose, that's when it's like, this is clearly just a cash grab. For me, adapting from a visual media to another visual media, it's kind of like, okay, so the purpose for adapting a book to a visual media is obvious. Like, you can see that world. You don't have to imagine it in your head if you're someone who doesn't enjoy reading but still really wants to be immersed in that world, I think movies, TV shows, games are great because you can still enjoy that story and physically see it. And some people don't love sitting down and imagining, and so it's a great way to share a story. It's like, it makes sense. Like, to me, books to TV or games totally makes sense. But when you're adapting something that's already visual to something that is also visual, I feel like there really needs to be a purpose there, like a reason that we can't tell this story in the game format. We have to move it to a different format. And to me, for things like Uncharted and games that are heavily story based already, I'm just like, why? Like, what is the purpose for this? You're just gonna retell the story I've already seen. Like Last of Us, I watched Last of Us before I played it, and I loved both experiences. But like at the end of the day, like I don't need to see that in a TV show now. Like I feel like what am I going to gain from it?
You've enjoyed it in the game.
I'm not going to gain anything else from seeing it again just with real life people. And I think I don't know, part of me gets a little bit angry about it. And I think it comes from this idea that video games and cartoons are for kids. They cannot be serious art because so many people that are like, Avatar: The Last Airbender is an amazing animated series that is now being turned into a live action series because it's a cartoon for kids. We can't take that seriously, but if it's live action, we can take it seriously. Like, there's this mentality of like, this isn't a serious art form, and like games can't be serious art form, so we're going to retell that story with actors because then it's serious. And I don't know, to me, I was a little bit angry when I heard about Uncharted and Last of Us, because I was just kind of like, okay, now you're just devaluing the hard work that those actors did as that character by being like, we can do it better on TV. Because I really don't know why you'd need to adapt those to TV or to films. Like, I don't know why.
Could it be that you're just trying to capture a different audience, like for those that are not gamers?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Like
that would be my guess. Yeah.
That'd be the nicest reason.
I bet you any money that whoever's on Netflix and is watching, like who's watched Witcher, has no idea about the game, no idea about the book. Like, there's probably millions.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just...
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's right. No, you go.
I was going to say, if it's the same as Game of Thrones fans, they probably will eventually seek the book out.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
usually what
Same with Game of Thrones. I didn't read any of the book and I had no idea. And then they made a game for it too. So...
Yeah.
After the show.
After the show. They did it the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's lots to do with the brand, because the brand does have value. So if you're able to transfer that value into a separate medium, that could then generate more revenue for your brand, like that's a no-brainer for a lot of business people. I do think there is also a desire to, like I think was mentioned previously, you want to reach new audiences. So if you're able to attract new audiences to your brand, and then you be like, hey, this brand was a video game, you could potentially attract new people to that platform as well. And when you're talking about the likes of Last of Us and Uncharted, like, that's parent company is Sony. They also have a film business as a major part of their business model. So with Uncharted, I think that's being self-published, but with Last of Us, which is being a television show, a short serial, that's in collaboration with HBO and Sony. So that's a different matter. I don't know how those discussions end up, like what gets chosen to be a movie, what gets chosen to be a TV show. It depends on the creative team behind it, but I feel like there's right and wrong ways of doing it. Like, I think the early 2000s, mid 2000s way of adapting games to movies was just awful. It was literally like cookie cutter, like, oh, see the girl that says Tomb Raider on the box art? What's her name? Tomb Raider. All right, let's greenlight this movie with Angelina Jolie because she's popular and she makes a lot of money. It's very surface level. Like, there was nothing really to it. Like, there was no dinosaurs in any of the Tomb Raiders.
Yeah, she did an awful lot of, like, she didn't do much archaeologying. That's not a word, but like, for someone who's an archaeologist in those two Tomb Raider movies, didn't really do a lot of archaeology, did she?
I even saw the reboot.
Even the new one, she did it.
Yeah,
I watched that, and there wasn't much of that either. Like, I think she definitely looked the part, like, when you comparing her with the rebooted Tomb Raider, like, in terms of, like, her build and, like, the way she acted the character. But again, the story was kind of just a bit meh. It was kind of like, because remember, like Tomb Raider, this is kind of the funny thing about Tomb Raider and Uncharted, is they're derivatives of each other. Tomb Raider was basically pitched as the woman version of Indiana Jones, and then Uncharted was pitched as the male version of Tomb Raider.
They're all just
So they're all just like derivatives of each other. So it's like, okay, where are we at this point?
Yeah.
Why don't we just watch Indiana Jones?
And the thing that disappointed me about the second Tomb Raider reboot, I don't know about you, Gillian, if you enjoyed it. I think we've talked about it before, actually. But like, they based it off of the reboot game, which I really enjoyed. But like, they made the story worse, in my opinion. Anyway, like they cut out a bunch of stuff from the game that made it good, and then they were just like, it's fine without it. And I was like, oh, why would you cut these things? These things are great. So like, they just remade the game, but worse. And I'm like, cool, I'll just play the game. I don't
They
need
made
this.
it more realistic. They got rid of the mythical elements of it.
But
They
that's what
like
made it cool.
Disease
That's what made it
instead of,
feel like Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I know, because like the earlier films had that.
Yeah.
Like, the Cradle of Light or whatever, there was a whole like mystical element to the early movies, but they just got rid of it. And I was like, oh.
I feel
Seems
like the newest ones, there was a lot of things missing, and it felt like they cut to scenes too quick. So you're like, wait, what? What happened there? Like, you need to tell people what happened in between there.
I remember pacing was all over the shop.
And that's not like the intrinsic issue with trying to cut down a game that's however, like, you know, we're talking like 40 hours long into a 2 hour long, less like hour and a half long film to sit down. Like, it's hard enough to condense a 500-page freaking book into a 2 hour long movie. Like, I don't know how people think that they can just take a game that's like however long and be like, yeah, I don't need an hour and a half, should be right. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, there's no way you can get that, you know, rich story into those 2 hours. Like, there's a reason why the game's as long as it is.
Did anyone see the Warcraft movie?
No.
Ooh, yes.
I watched it after coming home from like drinks with friends. It was like a family friend like birthday party, and we're all pretty like we weren't drunk, but we were all like pretty buzzed and kind of groggy and tired because it was a long night.
Tipsy.
And me and my stepbrother were like, "Oh, we don't want to go to bed. We should watch a movie." So I was like, "I don't know what to watch," and I was like, "Oh, you want to watch the Warcraft movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, all right." And we just put it on. I was like half asleep throughout like the last 2/3 of the movie, but even that, I was still like very judgy. I was like, "This movie's bad. This movie's awful."
So weird.
Because it was a similar thing. It was just like
it's very strange.
Like, it made no sense. It was like jumping from place to place. It was very like, it's obviously fantasy based. So all the names are hard to understand and like who's who in relation to who. And I didn't play the MMO. I only played like I probably tried it once and like never again. But yeah, like that was an interesting case study because like that's adapting an MMO more so the RTS story into a film, and it's like, yeah, I don't think they got it.
No.
And it was directed by Duncan Jones, who I actually really like. But like, yeah, I think he was just a lot of red tape with that movie because there's a lot of, you got Blizzard, you've got, you know, I think it was Legendary Pictures as well. There's like a lot of too many cooks. I think
Too many cooks.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
I don't know. It's always the danger of adapting something as well. It's like, if it goes really well, like, yeah, you're going to rake in the cash. You know, if it's a Witcher situation, you're going to rake in the cash. The games are going to profit. The books are going to profit. Everything's going to go. But if it goes wrong, the actors profit. But like, if it goes wrong, it is like such a colossal issue because the fans of these things are already there and they're going to be pissed if you ruin their thing, you know. And it's just I don't know, I just feel like sometimes I'm like, surely if you look at it as a storyteller, not as someone who just wants to make a bit of money, like some of these things I'm just like, why are you making a show out of this? Like, I'm sorry, I just can't see any value in you doing this, you know.
I think it works when it's made by a creative team or like a creative showrunner that has a vision, because a lot of these films and TV shows that have tried it in the past are often made by committee. They're trying to get the brand across in as simple a way as possible so they can drive, like you were saying before, take a new audience and introduce them to the other platform, the other medium, and draw them over to that side. The likes of Castlevania, The Witcher, I'm struggling to think of a third one, which is kind of
Struggling to think
indicative
of something that was successful, yeah.
exactly, yeah, indicative of the current landscape of video game movies and TV shows. But those were created by, first of all, individual showrunners that had, past work that was of decent quality, but they also were given the leverage and the free thinking to kind of come up with their own narrative and their own structure, and they weren't constrained to telling, oh, you have to tell the story of the first game beat for beat.
Yeah.
And you can't deviate, you can't change anything too drastically. Or if you do change something, it has to be for budgetary costs. And at that point, it's like, oh, you got rid of this whole thing from the story that's really important. Okay, cool. It won't make sense in the overarching story, but fine. You don't want to do the CGI monster, so that's cool. But that's when it works. Like when you have someone who actually has, style and has a direction they want to go in, that's when you get shows like Castlevania. That's when you get shows like The Witcher. Like it's not for everyone. Like I think The Witcher rubbed me the wrong way because the way it was told, it was very, it was told in chunks and like out of order. It was intentional, but it didn't make for a very confusing viewing experience if you hadn't heard The Witcher at all. Whereas I think in the second season they've announced that they are going for a more linear story progression, so like beginning, middle, and end, so it's not confusing for people. But yeah, I think that's the key thing for most of these things, even for books as well. And I understand books are probably, I think it's a harder sell and much more difficult because, like Gillian kind of mentioned it previously, you're kind of combating the idea of a narrative, or like a narrative that's pre-established with the narrative that's been built up in people's own minds and like the world they envision for the text they read. So when you try to bring it to life on screen, it's like, okay, well, this is our interpretation. And that's kind of the thing. It's the studio, it's the team's interpretation of that world. And that might not align with the interpretation you had when you first read the book. Whereas you play the game, so you have, if you're basing it off the same source material, you have the same aesthetic and the same interpretation because it's a visual medium. You can see what the characters are supposed to look like, or what the the places and the names are supposed to sound like. That's why it's easier on that front, but I still think that does require a certain level of creative freedom to kind of get a good story across.
Your dog's going off, man.
Sorry.
People going for walks.
Yeah, everyone's out and I swear more people are going outside and going for walks now that we, can't do stuff than back when we could. It's crazy. I think they actually have said parks have seen skyrocketing of people going to them now, which is hilarious. Anyway, cool. Well, I guess we'll jump on to our next topic then, which is a community topic this week, which is always nice. Thank you, community, for suggestions. I'm always happy to take more suggestions. If you want to offer more suggestions, please feel free to offer more suggestions. Join the Discord and help me. Anyway, so I'm taking another question from the bunch of questions that Amazingly Clueless Shuba gave me a few weeks back, which was basically just why RGB is good/bad. And I thought I'd talk about this because obviously, look, we use RGB a lot in our company. We like a bit of good RGB, but hey, everybody has their own opinions, and I thought we could talk about our opinions. If we like a bit of RGB goodness in our lives, or if we're more a fan of a muted color scheme, or if we're like Nick and we just don't use anything at all.
Bloody Nick.
Yeah, so I don't think I've talked about it really properly on the podcast, where I think the only time we've talked about RGB preferences is about cases. So about you guys, do you guys have a how do you guys feel about RGB? Are you a bit for it, or are you more like, no, I only want monochrome in my case?
At the start of when RGB started to become more of a thing, I was like, why would anyone want that? And I think that was because I didn't understand that you could basically choose a color scheme that you wanted. Like it was just like all you had was the rainbow.
Yeah, right.
Like that's all it was.
You just like
and I think that might still be a lot of people's mindset. Like you can't actually change it. In that regards, if it was that would be bad. Like I wouldn't want that. I don't think anyone really likes the rainbow effect.
I mean, if you do, that's fine. You do you know.
I mean, yeah, you do you.
You do
but
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know many people that are doing that.
That actually keep the rainbow.
Yeah, but I think just allowing you to basically personalize your computer by adding the color scheme that you want or whatever is really cool and is a good addition. I like it. I mean, there are certain over the top, like too much RGB can be a little bit too much, and sometimes you need to keep it clean. So I like a good clean amount of RGB.
Solid.
Hence my
Hence my wall.
Pink glow.
Hence my wall.
You're the
Yeah.
most RGB out of all of us.
You are. You're rocking
Yeah.
it.
It's very ethereal, Alex.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I think the same thing as Alex. I think a lot of people think that it's just the rainbow RGB, where it's not. I love my purple and my pinks and my teals, so I always stick to those colors for my desktop setup. But I think that's just more so my PC, and maybe my keyboard. I'll have purple, but that's about it. I won't go into other extreme. The ring quad fans that I put in my case, the neon effect for the actual RGB neon, so it's like all the multiple colors, that actually looks really, really cool. It looks like cotton candy. Like it's really,
Yeah,
it's
they're
really
stunning.
pretty. And even like I changed it now to teal and purple, and that still looks good. But I didn't mind the RGB on those. It actually looks really good. But yeah, I like it. I'm not fussed. If you like it, don't like it. It gives a bit of character to
It
it.
adds FPS.
It'll actually make you a better gamer, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it kind of
that's-
like makes the mood like you're in a good mood sort of thing
I
when
mean,
you're gaming.
Yeah.
true.
And it lights up my room for me. I don't need a lamp, so
Save money. So many benefits. What about you, Taylor? You've got a very colourful background. Obviously, you're a big fan of RGB.
Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic.
What a colourful lad.
Yeah. All right. We're delving into territory that I don't want to be in. Yeah, I don't know. It's for me. It's a bit of a muchness. Like if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be too fussed. But if I have it, it's fun to toy around with and kind of make it your own as RGB allows. But I think the main reason why people are so against it is because oftentimes you are possibly paying more for the privilege. And for some people, that's not worth the extra money. I can understand that. I can relate to that. PC gaming is a lot about, the performance side and what is you're paying for performance, like cost per performance. Costs per rainbow color isn't really something people want to trade out.
Especially if they're going to turn the RGB off. I guess that'd be pretty annoying to be like, I wonder how much of this price tag I'm not even using because I don't want it, I guess. Would be annoying.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like people just want to they want to know where exactly their money's going, and if the word was that they could save an extra $20 just by not having some fancy lighting, when their case is going to be completely enclosed in a non-transparent box underneath their desk, I can see why they're like, I don't want to have this RGB in this just because I want to have this specific fan or this specific, motherboard. It has this RGB gunk on it that I don't really want. I think that's all it is, and I think it's just a big meme at this point. I really doubt we're going to meet someone at an event, God knows when.
In 30 years when we can do events again.
Like, they're going to walk up to our booth and say, I hate RGB and I hate that you guys sell it. It's like, I don't think there's that type of person.
Oh,
I hope not.
Challenge accepted.
But
there is.
Yeah, I think it is just a big meme at this point. And I think if you do have it, it's like great. You can kind of deck out your system any way you want. I think PC gaming has gotten to a point now where it is all about, expressing your own style, and the same way that, modding in the automotive scene for cars, that got to a point like who remembers watching Pimp My Ride back in the mid 2000s, where
Oh,
you could
yeah.
stack TVs and speakers and neon lighting and
Pool
everything.
table.
It was
Yeah.
overkill,
Cool.
but that's because you could do it. It was fun.
Pool
Like,
table.
yeah. What was like a hot tub in one of them? I'm sure.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
back of the trailer.
The main-
I think that
get
it got to that point because people wanted to know what they could do and like what they could add
Yeah.
to it to make it unique and make it their own. And I think that's kind of extended itself to PC gaming. It's almost on point, pretty much, because you're talking about similar things. You're talking about cooling. You're talking about performance tuning. You're talking about paint jobs and colored lights and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's gotten to that point, and I think it's just really funny how they're the same but different, but also the communities are kind of the same, whereas they both complain about the same things, where one side equally hates one thing and the other side loves it. So it's interesting. Like, I know people love vinyl wrapping in cars, like that's a big side of the community, but there's people that hate it. They hate vinyl wraps because it ruins the paint job. But it's either or, man. You could have both in any community.
Okay, now let's do this.
That's it.
Yep.
So what
Yeah,
you're
so-
saying, Taylor, is that we need to bring Exhibit back to pimp people's PCs now instead of their rides.
Dude, if he's still
I actually
around,
thought that'd be a cool,
That would be
cool
cool.
YouTube series we did.
Yeah.
Surely that
We could
already
do it.
exists, right?
It does already exist, yeah.
Oh, in PC world.
People
It does, yeah.
stealing our ideas before we come up with them.
Dang.
This is ridiculous.
How dare they?
Well, like,
Next
I don't know
happens.
how you do it for a PC though, because like in the Pimp My Ride days, it was always something ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we heard you liked painting, right? That's your hobby, right? Well, we put an art studio in your car, and they open up the back
This
doors,
full
and it's like a
easel.
canvas.
Yeah.
Or it's like, it was always just bizarre stuff. Like, I remember, like, oh, you have a pet dog, or like you have a pet rat, and like we built a giant maze for your rat for climbing. And
Back
it's
in the
like,
car.
why? Why are you zero in on this one detail
Yeah.
about this person?
So that'll be it. It'll be Pimp My PC, and we'll bring Exhibit back, and they'll be like, so we heard that you like the shoes, so we put a shoe
heard-
in your PC.
We heard you like toast, so we put a toaster in your computer. You can make
When it
toast.
cools down your
Coffee
PC,
machine.
it pops out the toast. Done.
Oh my god! Okay, you can't dog me for knowing the Teletubbies names. You can sing the theme song to "Pimp My Ride." That's
Music is
thing.
different, man. Music is different.
He's
It's
a
on
is
another
different.
level.
I can't remember the theme song to "Pimp My Ride."
No, I
It's been
just
like
don't
over
either.
10 years.
Don't remember. That was pretty on par too.
I just
Sorry.
remember them going to the front door and they're opening the door and they're like, hey, and they're like acting so surprised.
They're
Like,
like, oh my
gosh.
You haven't been here for the last 3 hours telling me all this and setting up all the cameras. Oh my god, I'm so surprised.
And then they show their car and it's got like Maca packets everywhere. And it's just like, oh,
There's always that one dude as well. I forget his name, but he's just like, okay, so we got Jerome's Hyundai, and I'm gonna do him a solid, right? I'm gonna put in 50, 18-inch TVs.
Yeah.
Oh.
And like it's the mid 2000s, so they're not flat screen and they're not like big.
Just
It's
chunky.
supposed to be big giant TVs.
I wonder if they still have these cars or if they like actually work.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
wonder. Yeah, there should be a car show that's just for Pit My Ride contestants, and they all show up.
Come back.
It's a very niche market, but
Yeah,
true.
very.
Where
I
are they
wouldn't be
now?
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if like Snoop Dogg or what other singer rapper streams brings this
T-Pain?
into. Oh, yeah, T-Pain.
T-Pain would do it. T-Pain would totally do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pitch it.
We're gonna contact him.
Let's do it.
do it.
T-Pain, hit us up. We'll make this
Good
happen.
idea.
Who's the other guy? I can't remember his name.
You might need to narrow it down, Taylor.
Wait, yeah, you're doing a me
Post
right now.
Malone. Jay's 2 cents building a computer.
Oh, Post
Post
Malone,
Malone.
Ah,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he can get involved in this in some way.
True.
Put a
yeah.
grill.
Sure. For sure.
That's done. Pimp my PC. Let's make it happen. All right. And then the spin-off, which is Where Are They Now, for the finding the
Yeah.
cars and tracking them down. So
Yeah.
we've got a lot on our plan once the world opens up again. We've got a lot of shows coming up, everyone. Alrighty,
Good
good.
calendar, yeah.
Yeah, clear up space, guys. 2022. We're gonna be all over your TVs. Alrighty. So we'll jump on to our final segment of the day, which is going to be talking about the Ubisoft Forward event. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Forward?
Ubisoft Forward, yeah.
Forward, yes. So it was basically just like their little event type thing where they showed off a few trailers and announced a few things coming up. And we haven't really talked about an event for a while. I think we talked about some back in the day when we first started, like the Game Awards and things like that. But hadn't really talked about one since then, and I thought this one was kind of interesting, so maybe we'll have a little bit of chat about the trailers that were premiered and what kind of things they talked about, and if any of you guys are interested in them, or what you guys' opinions are on what happened. So did you guys have a chance to check out some of the trailers that and some of the things that were announced at the event? And if you had any opinions on those?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Do you want to start? All right, cool. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Dude, how crazy was the Far Cry 6 trailer?
I can't believe it's 6.
That was
I think there's more than 6.
Yeah, I
there's
know.
been there's like closer to 9 of them now, because they've had spin-offs and stuff too. I just can't believe there's 6 plus of them now, because I remember playing the first one, which is so old now.
Yeah, I never touched it. My first Far Cry was Far Cry.
Yeah, I never got really into it.
Neither.
Yeah.
But I was just very shocked by the trailer.
I only saw a bit of it, I think, at the start. I didn't watch all of it. I need to watch all of it.
You need to watch all of it, Gillian.
Yes, I only watched a bit at the start. Sorry, guys.
Letting the team down, Gillian. It's fine.
I liked what's it called? Ghost Recon. How they're utilizing AI for the people that you play with the computer.
Yeah. You know,
your teammates
there you
that
go,
are the computer.
AI, it stands for artificial intelligence.
You guys might not have heard of it before. It's
Yeah.
pretty new. Yeah.
No, they were saying how they
Wildlands, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
On Wildlands, they had AI companions.
Yeah.
I think it was implemented late in the game, like as an update. But yeah, they experimented with it then. And then I think for Breakpoint, they were like, they may have had some player data that suggested that more people played it on their own than with a party of 4. Yeah, I've heard that it actually works pretty well in terms of how AI companions behave these days.
That's one thing I always, this is completely off topic, but like, it's one thing that's always bothered me about Borderlands. I find it really annoying how the cutscene happens, and then I'm playing on my own, and then my 3 fellow Vault Hunters just freaking yeet away, and they're not there, and I'm on my own. And then the cutscene happens again, and they're like, "Oh, team, we work together." And I'm like, "No, they didn't. I was on my own the whole time. They all buggered off, and I did it all on my own." So I would have loved to have been able to have AI to be my team, because it feels more like we're a team than just me on my own. Some of us just play by ourselves, okay, game developers? All right, can't you just look after us, please? Thank you.
Yeah, that's why I can never get into the Borderlands series, is because that's such a team-based 4-player co-op shooter, and like playing on your own,
It feels weird.
You realize how the fun times that can be had, especially in those earlier games, the fun times that can be had in that is mainly dependent on you having it with other people. Like in isolation, it's kind of like,
it's not quite the same.
Shooting's kind of meh for me.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I
like,
feel
it's
that.
not enough to kind of keep me going back. But I liked what they initially showed for Watch Dogs Legion.
Yeah, that's.
I saw a preview of that
agree.
at PAX last year. They had a playable demo that they played it in front of you. You weren't allowed to play it yourself, but they had someone on the stick, and they had someone playing on a big TV in like a theater. And it looks amazing. I feel like I think the main thing for this game is going to be the system of being able to recruit anyone into your resistance group. They've already shown off you can recruit like a grandma to join your resistance, and like
so
because
good.
you're a grandma, you can't run fast, so you have to like hobble your way into like a security complex and like taser dudes. And yeah, like they kind of showed in that demonstration in the event like the spectrum of people you can recruit. So they obviously had the jokey, grandma one, but then they said, oh, you can like find a hitman in the city somewhere, recruit him. And he's basically John Wick. Like he just goes into a room and like gun fu, like just takes everyone out, and it makes it into like a Hitman style game. But then you can also recruit like a drunkard guy at a pub, and like he is like a brawler, so he can just like go into like locations and like beat people up with a wrench or whatever.
Jesus.
So it's like it just changes the game so much, and it can make it really personal to your playthrough as well, because there's permadeath in the game as well. So you can recruit as many people as you want, and then those people can actually die as the fail state of the game instead of just like respawning. So it adds a bit of weight to it as well, which I like. So I think it's gonna be cool to see when the game comes out, how that plays out.
Yeah, I gotta hand it to Ubisoft for like persisting with Watch Dogs, because I know when it first came out, that a lot of people were very disappointed in that game. Like, I'm just gonna throw it out there. But when I used to work at a game store, there's a lot of trade-ins of that boy. Oh, you'd get piles this high. But
that is a trading game.
That and I remember when the only other game that happened with was during my run was Tom Clancy. Was it The Division? The Division. That was so bad. It came out, and then within about a month, I was like, you just had a pile this high of the ones to sort out because people just traded it back in. But yeah, Watch Dogs, I feel like it's had such a journey of being like, oh, it's disappointing. Oh, it's not too bad. But now we're like, oh. So I'm glad they're still persisting with it though. They're like,
everyone raves about Watch Dogs 2. They say Watch Dogs 2 was like the turning point for the series and actually kind of found its footing a bit.
Yeah.
And they're kind of leaning into that aesthetic with this one as well.
Yeah.
There were people out there that did prefer the darker tone of the original Watch Dogs, but I feel like it's kind of the danger of Ubisoft's games and a lot of open world games these days. They have a risk of all being the same.
Yeah.
Like you look at Watch Dogs, you look at GTA, Red Dead, Ghost of Tsushima that just came out, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They're all, and with The Witcher as well, which kind of started this whole new renaissance for open world games. They all kind of start to feel the same and all look the same, and it's kind of a bit, especially with Ubisoft, like when you have Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Gods and Monsters, but they didn't show off, and the previous games that only came out last year, there's so much that is just very similar. So like you can very easy to get burnt out on these games. That's kind of what happened to me. Like I was so far behind on Assassin's Creed games that I've only now just caught up to Odyssey after finishing Origins, and I think it was Syndicate before that. But yeah, I was like 3 or 4 ACs behind, just because I had enough. Like I got to the point where the formula was so treadmill like that I just kind of got a bit sick of it.
That's pretty fair. I do feel like Ubisoft games, to me, it has, as someone who's never had a Ubisoft game that I really, really like fell in love with at all. Like I've never been into Assassin's Creed that much. I've only played a bit of the first Far Cry and Far Cry 4, which I actually didn't mind, but I just wasn't interested in any of the others. Ubisoft games always feel the same to me. Like they all just feel like the same game, just with like different skins on them. It just so like I could totally feel that with Assassin's Creed, because just watching them, they're like that.
Yeah, you mentioned Far Cry, and that's exactly the same for me. Like, sorry.
Your dog's like, yes, I concur. Yes, me too.
I'll let someone else speak, and I'll go sort that.
What's it gonna do? It's not gonna do anything. He's like, you stop ruffling. Please stop ruffling.
We went like 4 episodes where I don't think I heard the dog once, and then we had the episode where Taylor talked about the dog, and since then the dog has appeared in every episode.
Yeah,
he's just a great all-around guy. Once you get to know him.
Yes, because he moved his office downstairs.
Yeah, I am downstairs as opposed to last time. But yeah, Far Cry. That is for me the one series that it's like, I don't want to say it's carbon copy, but the formula hasn't evolved since Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
Like Far Cry 2 has a cult following. People love that game for very specific reasons, and they haven't really done anything as similar to Far Cry 2 after 3. Like they kind of expand on stuff, but they introduced new stuff that they borrowed from Assassin's Creed. But then since 3, Far Cry 4, very similar. Far Cry Blood Dragon was a bit of a change in terms of aesthetic, but in terms of formula, exactly the same. Far Cry Primal, same map as Far Cry 4. That was a big controversy back in the day.
Did it really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, people had images and they overlaid them to find.
And they're the same.
The same topography of the map was the same, but it was set in the Stone Age.
Yeah,
that was the main study difference. Far Cry 5, when that came out, I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. But from what I saw of the gameplay, I was like, it looks the same as Far Cry 3. And with this new trailer for Far Cry 6, there was no gameplay. It was just showing off the villain and like the setting. And I'm like, yeah, like, you know, I like the idea of like this kind of, you know, Cuban-esque kind of revolution, mid-revolution, you know, dictator, and you try kind of fighting the resistance to kind of take it over. That's very Far Cry, you know, the underdog resistance.
The one man army.
Finding the villain. Thing. Yeah, like finding the main villain, because that was kind of established in Far Cry 3 with Vaas. I feel like Far Cry 2 didn't have a very strong villain. But apart from those things, that's very Far Cry. That's like that's the main pull points that you get. But apart from that, like, I guarantee you, there's going to be towers you have to scale to reveal the map. There's going to be like scouting camps to overtake. There's going to be a bunch of back and forth backtracking, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I do think the big appeal of Far Cry games, especially since 3, has been the villain, like the big bad that you're against of Vaas, and then there was Pagan Min in 4. I don't know about Primal, but I know in Far Cry 5 it was what was his name?
It was what was the Jared Leto?
It wasn't actually Jared Leto, was it? But it did. I do, yeah. He had a bit of a Jared Leto vibe to him. Yeah, I think that has kind of now become the main appeal for people with that game. Has been like the villain. You know.
Yeah, it's almost like a Bond thing.
Yeah,
but they put focus on the villain ever since Vaas. And now the rumor is that this son of the main dictator villain guy for Far Cry 6 is a young Vaas. That's the rumor. They're making it basically a prequel, is what people are guessing.
Interesting.
Which would make sense, like if they're seeing dwindling sales of Far Cry and they're like, well, what was our most successful Far Cry? Oh, Far Cry 3. Let's get that.
Let's bring that back. That's fair.
But yeah, I don't know if I am okay with that, because I feel like Vaas was an accident. I think the actor who played Vaas was just
went off.
He found a voice and a character for that just worked, and it kind of gelled with the whole aesthetic of the crazy aspect of, you know, it being a tropical island and all the drug connotations with that game as well. It worked in that context, but then, you know, and I think the good thing about Vaas as well is he was so short-lived. He was there, he was a threat, and then he was gone, and then that was it. Like, his presence was so short that people were like, oh, like, it would have been cool if he was there the whole game and not, like, you know, just there for half of it. Yes, I think they struck fire once, and now they've been trying to recapture that ever since, like Troy Baker with Pagan Men. And I think his portrayal kind of worked, but again, it was kind of like they were looking for that same kick, but they didn't just get it. And then ever since then, I don't think they nailed it with Far Cry 5. It didn't have the same weight at all. And then the spin-offs, I don't even mention those because they're not on the same level.
They're not really there. Cool.
Did you guys watch the Assassin's Creed Valhalla stuff, the Viking stuff?
I watched gameplay of it.
I think you might like it, Gillian, because that's very, I think from what I've seen aesthetic-wise, it looks very Witcher 3. Which I think is what their main goal was. Ever since like Origins, they've been trying to make Assassin's Creed more like The Witcher and make it more RPG, choice-driven, and all that kind of stuff.
I did watch quite a bit. It looked pretty cool. And because I've been watching a lot of like the Vikings and what was the other one that I liked?
Oh, you told me to watch it actually. I forget what you called it.
What was it called?
The Old Kingdom?
No, is it just Kingdom? The Kingdom?
The Last Kingdom?
The Last Kingdom, yeah. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, it's I watched a bit of it, and it gives that feeling of that time, and you can play either a girl or a man, a woman or a man character, so it's cool. But I couldn't really like from their movements and that they don't change their movements from the man and the woman.
When they do that,
and I was like, wait, is it playing a guy or is it playing a girl? I couldn't tell.
I like it because there's games, like if you go back and play older games, especially Dragon Age games, Sarah, I don't know if you've noticed. when you play as a woman, the run cycle for women are just like this, with your arms like out back like wings. And it's like, you don't notice it because I didn't play many woman characters in games, but when I replayed the games, every now and then. I'm like, oh, I'll switch it up and I'll play as a woman. And I was like, why do they run like that?
It's
And
weird.
Yeah, there are mods that you can make it to like just have the male run animation, and it looks fine. Like it doesn't make it like weird, but it was just interesting how like there's an animator out there who's like, I need to make this more feminine.
Better do this for some
Yeah.
reason.
Don't, you know, I'm basically like a warrior woman with like a giant broadsword, but yeah, I run like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I liked how you could become friends with a cat and then it becomes a friend and
That's
it follows you everywhere. It's so cute.
Can't argue with
I
that.
found that so funny. Oh yeah.
I love the idea of like a big Viking charging into battle with their cat on their shoulder or something. Just this little house cat.
Yeah, it was just sleeping on the boat. It was so cute.
That's
it's just
so cute.
chilling.
I like how much they're leading into the Viking aesthetic as well, because they have the drinking mini game as well.
Yeah.
You have to chug a beer
You have to chug.
faster than your opponent.
Yeah.
That's great.
That was funny.
And they also have like a rap or like a poem mini game where you have to like say like songs, like Viking songs, and like against an opponent, and like you have to have a better rhyme than them to beat them.
Yeah.
It's
That's
cool.
pretty funny.
And I think the different characters as well, whether you can choose them as a man or a woman, it's interesting because they say you can switch at any time. Because in the previous games that gave you that option, you have to choose at the beginning of the game, and you're locked into that choice. Whereas in this one, they're saying, oh no, you can switch between a male or a female whenever.
Interesting.
And people are speculating that it actually has to do with the narrative, because there's been points in real history where people never know if a historical figure is a man or a woman. They weren't able to determine that. So they're like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like the events that take place in the story, they refer to them as Eivor, which is the character's name, but they don't ever know or ever say that they're a man or a woman, because they just don't know. Like the historical records don't actually have enough information to kind of give you the right telling. I think that's cool, because they haven't really done that kind of history telling in AC since like, I want to say the Ezio trilogy, because I feel like 3 just went off the deep end. They're playing around with history too much, where they're just making it this weird narrative mishmash.
I also watched Hyperspace as well. A bit of gameplay from that.
I've heard a little bit about that too.
It's interesting. It's a different. I like how you can, obviously it's hyperspace, so when you jump, you're floating pretty much from building to building. That was pretty cool. But I'll probably get really dizzy playing that.
Yeah, it's fair actually.
Just like, whoa, what is going on? It's like, don't know where I am. But yeah, it's interesting concept.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Right. Well, I guess that's it then. Yes. Excellent. We done? All right.
Alex, what else did you like about it?
Yeah, Alex, what else did you like about it?
I like that in Hyperscape they added like a bit of a backstory as to where they were and a bit more context as to what was happening, and it was actually people in 2050 or whatever playing in the game, and that's the context for for actually playing the game. I really like that. I enjoyed that.
The whole thing is like you're in a VR simulation, but they're stuck in it.
Yeah. Oh, I think there was some story about like people going missing and stuff
or like dying
from
in
the
game,
game.
like in real life.
Yeah.
They've done that in anime before. So.
Yeah, well,
Or you reckon it was copy?
Copyright infringement. No, there's a whole subgenre of that now. Actually, it's insane.
Is the Ghost of Tsushima? Is that Ubisoft?
No.
That's Sony.
That's Sony.
PlayStation. Yeah.
PlayStation.
That's real fun.
That looked awesome. That's pretty cool.
Dude, you can sit in hot springs.
Oh, really?
And you can't do it in real life right now, so you know.
You're like riding
doing
around
the
your
games.
horse. You're riding around your horse, and like a bird a yellow bird will swoop down, and if you follow the bird, it takes you to a hot spring.
Oh, it's Taylor's hawk.
And you just, I know, right? And you just sit.
But
you
you
just
try and
sit down
mention
in
it
the
in every
hot spring.
episode from now on.
Yeah.
The hawk needs to come at least once.
Yes, I have
You
to.
just sit down in this hot spring, and like you get the choice to reflect on like an idea, like just clear your mind or like reflect on the day, and you just say a few words, and then your health goes up by like a nanometer, and that's it.
Hey, I mean,
Cool.
I'll take it.
That's
Sounds
in
pretty
like
nice.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They meditate. So, and they say, I don't know if it's true, but if you meditate next to sheep, or lamb or something like that, it's better. Like the meditation is better or something like that. They love it. And so he went and meditated next to the sheep, and then the sheep came up to him and just like sat on top of him and just like chilled there and slept with him.
I don't remember seeing that at all, but that's amazing.
That
Yeah,
does sound
so-
amazing.
I saw it on Jack Bags. So he was saying that he goes in. They were saying back that it's true. In Viking days, that's what they used to do. But I don't know if it's true or not.
Just sleep with sheep.
But yeah, they used to love sleeping with the sheep.
Is that where? Do you reckon that's where counting sheep comes from?
Maybe.
You have to count how many you have so you can stay warm in the night.
I mean, oh my
I need more
god,
sheep.
we're putting this whole thing wide open,
I'm
people.
cold. I need more sheep.
I cannot sleep unless I have at least 6 sheep available at all times. Okay,
One to rest my arms on, and then another to rest my head on.
that's right. That's what I gotta do to get some decent sheep around here. Gosh,
Yeah,
Anyway.
keeps you warm.
that's it exactly. On that note, though, I guess we might wrap it up though. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching the podcast. Appreciate you sticking it out all the way to the end. Remember to check us out on everything. There's links all over the place, probably either below if you're watching this on YouTube, or to the right if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, for example. But Twitter, Facebook, what else do we do? Instagram, YouTube. You might be watching on YouTube right now. Thermaltake Australia and New Zealand. And Twitch, we're live streaming this on Twitch. We're trying to live stream almost all of these. So please, if you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere else or listening to it, swing by our Twitch channel when we stream this. We usually go live at around 3 p.m. on Mondays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. And it's just twitch.tv/ThermaltakeANZ. And come say hi. But I think that's about it. Did I forget anything? Did I miss something? Discord! Join the Discord! Do that
yes.
and give me suggestions, please. Links are all for that as well. And yeah, that's it. You guys got anything you would like to end the stream off with today? Anyone? Nah.
Work, sweat, burn, repeat, win. I just keep
Thanks,
saying
Gillian.
it.
I find it kind of, I don't know why. Work, sweat, burn, repeat, win.
What do you win?
Why are you in? Yeah.
And why don't I don't repeat?
Life.
Win at
Do I
life.
only
Oh,
win
damn it.
once? Like, because I'm repeating before I'm winning, so I've got to do all of that.
Yeah, like
And
how many
times
cycles?
before I win?
It's actually an endless loop. You don't ever win.
Really?
Once you get to here, it's like, oh, back again.
See,
oh,
that's what I
back
mean.
again.
When do
Oh,
I win?
Yeah, you never win.
I never win. There's the wise
Oh,
words for
thanks.
today. You never win. Thermal Talk podcast, episode 20. Enjoy. Wise words of the day.
You never.
Absolutely.
You will never win. All right, that's it. Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Bye,
See ya.
podcast.
Bye, podcast.
Thank you so much for sticking around all the way to the end. We do hope you enjoyed this episode of Thermal Talk. If you want to join in the discussion or maybe even submit a topic for us to talk about in future, make sure to jump over to our Discord. We also do weekly giveaways there as well. Remember also that these video podcasts are available audio a week earlier. So jump over to our Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Podcasts to listen earlier. And we'll catch you on the next one.